next inductee is Mark Sullivan. As Langer said, he's not here tonight. He's down in Texas in a PBA regional qualifier, I believe, or 50. So at this time, I'd like to call Anji Sullivan up here. She'll be accepting the award for Mark.
Yes, as you can see, Mark is not here. He actually had the opportunity to bowl in Texas for the PBA 50, and he took it. So I don't know what he was thinking, but he sent myself and his sister. Not sure that we're the best representatives. We've already spilled some wine. We did take a picture. We put some chocolate cheesecake on our tooth and sent it to Mark and said we're representing well. So if any of you know him, you know his sense of humor and think that he would appreciate that. So we're all very proud of Mark, and we want to thank everyone. I know he's very disappointed that he couldn't be with us tonight, but he did call earlier this afternoon. A couple things that he did want to say. He said he does apologize for not being here, but he had the opportunity to bowl in Texas. Said he's fortunate enough to have the support of family and friends to be able to do this as long as he's competitive. He's so appreciative of the honor, but most importantly, I'm thankful for the friendships and memories I've made along the way. I know he truly, truly appreciates the friendships that he has and all the memories. Bowling has been a part of his life since he was 8 years old, and it still continues to be. He says as long as he's competitive, he'll continue to travel and just loves his bowling family. So he wants to thank all of you.
Anji, on behalf of USBC headquarters in the Indiana State USBC, I'd like to present this to you for Mark. And again, as it said, USBC recognizes Mark Sullivan on being inducted into the Indiana State USBC Hall of Fame, dated June 20th of 2020, and of course, his Hall of Fame ring. So congratulations to both you and Mark on this one. Let's do some.
Our next inductee into the Indiana State USB Hall of Fame is Jerry Hindel. His introducer will be Mark Hunt.
It is my honor to introduce the next inductee. Talk about a role model as well as a leader. Leader in making bowling better. You can check his resume out. Always prepared, truly cares about our industry, his employees, as well as the customers he sees 7 days a week. I'm proud to introduce Mr. Jerry Hindel.
And again, Jerry, as with everyone else, congratulations on the great honor, and on behalf of USBC headquarters staff and the Indiana State USBC Hall of Fame, I want to present you with your plaque and Hall of Fame ring. The plaque, of course, reading, USBC proudly recognizes Jerry Hindel on being inducted into the Indiana State USBC Hall of Fame. This one dated today's date, June 26th of 2021. If you'd like to do that, I'll hold this till we're done and get some pictures. Thank you.
I'd like to congratulate all my fellow inductees. It's a pleasure to be inducted with this great group. I also want to thank Edie Klein for submitting my resume. It seems she has a way of embellishing even the smallest of accomplishments. Also want to thank the committee for selecting me this year. I need to thank Mark Hunt, my partner and general manager, for his tireless work over the last 43 years. Yes, I agree. There are over 250 members in the Indiana Hall of Fame. The majority are here with us tonight only in spirit, but all of them have created a legacy that I hope will continue for years to come. Through the years, I have had the privilege to work and get to know over 60 members in the Hall of Fame. Looking back to the early days back in the 70s, the first two names I recognized were Lois Glass and Pat Dreyer. Then in 1997, my mom, Judy Hindel, was inducted in the Superior Performance category. As we move on through the 70s, names like Wes Kidwell, Francis Cook, Chris Schinkel. For any youngsters out there, Chris was the TV announcer for the BPA Tour for 36 years. And this was back in the days when the PBA Tour got better ratings than college football on Saturday. A few years later, 1982, a class with three of my favorites, Don Lowry from Lowry Lanes in Kokomo, Dick Weber, and my dad, Carl Hindel. Needless to say, that year, Dick was the very superior performance inductee. When I was very young, my dad told me, quote, "Just between you and I, the gals have all the bowling talent in the family." I wasn't thrilled to hear that, but of course he was correct. In 1998, my sister Patty was inducted into the superior performance category. Patty's here tonight with her husband Russ. Thank you for being here. As if you had a choice. I must admit that I'll always think of the Hall of Fame as being about superior performance. Those who have bowled their way into the Hall will always be on a slightly higher pedestal in my mind. That being said, as I've heard earlier, I think most of you would agree that what really makes the sport of bowling so great is not the big scores and the high averages, but the friends you make along the way. It's an honor to be joining an amazing group of people in the Hall. I'm especially proud to be the 11th proprietor and the 4th member of my family to be inducted. Thanks to all of you for being here this evening to honor the Hall of Fame members, both past and present. Thank you.
Pleasure to start the introductions for our next inductee this evening, Mr. David Munn. I had the pleasure years ago, quite a few years ago, my start in the state under what was remembered as the IBA days, or if you remember the blue coat days. I had the fine privilege of wearing a blue coat with this gentleman and spending many years with him serving the state of Indiana. So it's my pleasure tonight to introduce Michael McPherson, who will be introducing Mr. David Munn.
Okay, my pleasure to give you the history of Mr. David Munn. The new inductee served up to close to 10 years on the Indiana State BA board. 1 year as Indiana State BA first vice president, 1 as Indiana State second vice president, and 1 year as third Indiana State vice president. 7 years as Indiana State District 9 director, which is where we met. Dave accepted the position of chairing the state jamboree, serving 6 years on the Indiana Youth Board. Dave served on the Bowl, Indiana Council for 4 years. Dave was council president when the first annual state mixed tournament went on floor. Not bad for becoming involved in bowling during his junior year in high school. Dave held positions as league president, vice president, and secretary treasurer. Dave bowled in 4 national tournaments, 15 state and 25 local tournaments. Career high game of 290, high series of 759 with many 700s. Dave was inducted into the Columbus Hall of Fame in 2007. In 2011, Dave received Friend of Indiana State USBC WBA award presented by Judy Smith. Dave won several Indiana State Bowling Association awards, which include District Director of the Year Award in 1997 and 2004, and a District 9 Service Award. Has won many local awards, including 2 sportsmanship awards, high game, high series, and several league championships. Who would have thought that would be the beginning of enthusiasm and love for the sport to which he became a tireless ambassador? My pleasure to present David Munn.
And again, one more time, it is my honor again, on behalf of the Indiana State USBC and the staff at USBC headquarters, to present you with your plaque and your Hall of Fame ring commemorating this date. Again, it says USBC proudly recognizes David Munn on being inducted into the Indiana State USBC Hall of Fame. Again, today's date, June 26, 2021. Congratulations, sir.
As many of you know, I'm not lost for words, but I want to thank the Indiana USBC Bowling Association for having this event this evening. And I'd like to congratulate all the inductees and the past Hall of Fame members. I'd like to pass on also, past President Jim Lemming could not be here this evening, and he wanted me to pass on to the current inductees his condolences for not being here. I want to talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame, what helped me a lot, and I want to thank different people for what the reason I'm here. I'd like to thank Mike McPherson for turning my resume in, and I really, really appreciate that. Mike and I go back a long ways, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a little bit. I'd like to thank the Indiana Bowling Association Board with Tom Baxter, and if the guys that I served on the board with, would they please stand for a minute from the OIBA board? Any of you that's here, I really appreciated you guys for what you did for me and the mentoring me as I was on the board. I'd like to thank the Women's Indiana State Bowling Association and Barb Spencer and Judy Smith as presidents. And I'd like for those ladies that are here that I spent a lot of time with after the IBA to stand for a minute. Donna, Sherry, Dean. Okay, these ladies they took me under their wing after I left the Men's Association, and I traveled around with my wife Sherry that was on the Women's State Board, and I got a lot of hugs and a lot of kisses, and she never did really get jealous. And they loved my brownies, and I just told Donna I would sell my recipe for a half meal. Okay, I would like to also to thank Corky and the YABA State Board. Served several years with Corky and the board. We did several tournaments together. We did the Masters and Queens, the youth tournament, and the Indiana-Kentucky All-Stars. And one of my highlights of that was working the Masters and Queens. I got to be to help pick out the sportsmanship award. And the guy that, first guy I had on my lanes, and he was the first guy out, was E.J. Tackett, now professional bowler. So thank you, Corky, for everything. Then I would like to talk about the Columbus Bowling Association, which I'll introduce in a little bit. I would like to thank them. I spent 30-plus years on their board and was president 4 different times, and enjoyed it all, and enjoyed all the people I was around. And I was lucky enough when they got a men's Hall of Fame to be one of the first 3 to inducted into their Hall of Fame, and that was an honor. I'd like to thank District 9, which Mike is the district director of, for all of their support when I was a director, traveling around the state. We started out with having an association meeting, our district meeting. I had 3 or 4 people showing up to the last meeting I conducted. We had 8 of our 10 associations and over 80 participants, and that was great for our district. So I thank Mike. And just a little bit about Mike real quick. I met Mike at one of my traveling. I walked into Paoli Lanes in Orange County, 6-lane bowling center, with my blue jacket on, tie and everything, and it was like this, back. And all the guys on the lane, they just stopped bowling and just stared at this guy in a suit coming into a 6-lane center. Well, the next time I went down, I went with my polo shirt on, and the guys kind of just like this. They took me down on the lanes, we sit, we talked and chatted, and so Mike has been there for me all along, and I appreciate Mike. Okay, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about the other half. A lot of you know Sherry. We've been married for 47 and a half years. And we met through bowling. Just a little real quick, I was telling Mike about it earlier. I was in a youth organization, well, it wasn't a youth, young adults, and they tell me I went to a bowling tournament, and it was a state event, and they put Sherry, and I walked into the team event, and they said, "You got 3 ladies and a guy on your team." Well, I didn't know the 3 ladies had never bowled before, and the guy. So I started out, I shoot like a 270-something first game, which beat all 3 of my ladies' score. So when we were done, I shot a nice 7+ series, which beat all 3 of my ladies' total score. And so my team did not qualify for the next event, but I shot the highest series shot in the state that day. So I thank Sherry for being there for me. And then there's another little story. Her other husband over here went back to, Sherry was in a tournament up in Michigan. What's it, Michigan? Wisconsin. And I wasn't able to go. And so there was a guy that kind of took over as the second husband for Sherry. And I won't say his name is Corky. And Sherry brings this great big bear back that Corky, her dog, that her second husband won for her. And my granddaughter, which I'll introduce in a little bit, carried that dog around and she knew it was Corky, but she got to see Corky tonight. So, but I'd like to introduce some people before I finish. I'd like to introduce the Columbus president. Back here, Rick Wilson, Pat David, association manager, Bonnie Hundley, sent back here with Sherry, past board member for the Columbus. And did I forget anybody? Oh, I want to introduce my granddaughter. That was my little partner at some of the events while I was traveling for the IBA. And so I think I introduced everybody. But I calculated one time between the local board, state board, kids board, and everything, I did almost 18,000 miles over my 10, 12 years as board members. And so the last person I want to thank was my co-pilot, and that's the good Lord, for safe travel. So I thank you all for coming tonight, and I really appreciate this honor.
Dave, I think Representative Garcia wanted to
Well, I'm gonna make this quick right here, but a lot of years, this man right here, I've been around bowling. 3 centers in Columbus, full most of the time, years ago. I'm not gonna tell you how old I am, but anyway, yeah, 21, yeah, there you go. But he's been a friend. Everybody in Columbus knows him, you know, and I'm sure everywhere else, but we all really appreciate David Munn at Columbus.
Dave's wife, Sherry, bowls with me on our Thursday night league. So when we knew that Dave was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, I asked her what could the association do to recognize Dave. So we put our heads together, and it turns out because the state now gives rings to the inductees, when Dave first heard, he told Sherry, he said, "You have a plaque in the shape of Indiana for your induction into the Hall of Fame in 2008. I'm going to get one to put on the wall right beside yours." So it came as a small disappointment when he got a ring instead of his plaque. So we took care of the plaque. Dave, on behalf of the Columbus USBC Association, we want to recognize your induction into the Hall of Fame.
Our next inductee, Mike Kubacki. From Northern Indiana, I'd like to introduce Mike Kubacki Jr. and Nicole Kubacki. This is Mike's son and daughter.
Hi guys, definitely some familiar faces out there, but for those of you that we don't know, I'm Nicole. I'm Mike's ruggedly handsome daughter. For those of you that do know my dad, Mike, you understand. We're gonna apologize because this might be a little long. If you scroll through the online list of the Indiana State Bowling Association Hall of Famers, you will find men and women who have distinguished themselves on the lanes and many others who have excelled in support of the sport in other various ways. Our dad has done both and then some. And if you know him, you know he's definitely not done yet. Whew. The 2020 honoree from Griffith has built a stellar career behind the approach as well as on the lanes. Joining adult leagues at just the age of 15 and shooting his first career 800 series at Munster Lanes at 17. Dad's late mother, my grandma, Barbara, she drove him to meet with a reporter after that 800 series, and he has been a household name in Northwest Indiana newspapers for almost 40 years for his accomplishments ever since. Even after a major health event 18 years ago changed his life in ways that no one could have predicted. My dad was born with a very deformed chest cavity and spine. Parts of his spine and sternum are just mere centimeters apart, and the severity of these two combined posed a unique challenge that the medical world was not ready for in 1966. So the professionals, they chose to take a wait-and-see approach. Fast forward 36 years, and a team at the University of Chicago would undertake a surgery so bold they would do a documentary on the procedure for Discovery Health. Even with 36 more years of information and experience, they found out they still weren't quite prepared to deal with this. One surgery that was supposed to move his sternum into a normal position turned into a multitude of surgeries that included moving his displaced heart separate times. His sternum was completely removed and rebuilt at a different angle, and both his lungs were operated on multiple times. In 2005, after over 18 months of surgeries and rehab, far away from the bowling world, Mike tried to bowl again. He snuck into Stardust in Hammond early in the afternoon to avoid seeing anyone. He prepaid 4 games, requested lanes 1 and 2, and said to himself, "If I can't do this, I'm cutting out the side door." He made it 38 frames before stopping that day, but that was enough confirmation for him that he could at least bowl again, regardless of the quality. This was the moment that gave him enough confidence to start putting himself back out there in the bowling world. The late Claude C.J. Jackson asked him to help coach at Highland High School halfway through their season as a way to reacclimate himself. This spearheaded his transition right into coaching. The following 2006 season, Mike returned to his alma mater, Griffith, to start a high school bowling program there. This allowed him to create new opportunities for his son, his nephew, and many other kids who roamed the halls at Griffith High School, as well as to lead them to a state championship in 2007, just in their second season. Speaking of that, I'm gonna hand it over to my brother, the other bowler in the family, because I did not get that gene.
From his early days on the lanes, the bowling lanes management graduate from Vincennes University wanted to be known as a tournament bowler first and foremost, as he always felt that was where the real challenge in our sport was. He has always sought out the best competition that he could find and made it his sole determination to be the best against the best, and that is why we're here today. Whether behind the approach or on the lanes, he has been a driving force in any team he's been on. In 2 years at Vincennes, he led his college tryout using a rubber ball, I might add. Both seasons, he won 5 National Junior College Athletic Association Finals medals, 3 gold and 2 silver. And he even had a then NJCAA Finals record, 288 game. Times have changed a bit, huh? He led the very prestigious Northwest Indiana Classic League in average 5 of the league's last 8 years of existence, with averages over 230 all of those seasons. He did it both with urethane and then later with reactive. He's recorded 12 800s, 26 300s, and another 15 299s, 298s, and 290s. And this is all on his way to 8 GCABA association titles, as well as an induction into the Hall of Fame locally. His first 300 came at the age of 16. His second, which was accomplished at Little Bowl Arena in Griffith, now known as Set 'em Up Lanes, was the first one ever achieved in that center, and for the first 70 years of existence of that center, it was the only one that ever existed. His first 20 years at the ABC USBC Open, he held an average of 209.5, and still to this day carries an average over 207. He's won the Times Bowling Classic A Division 3 times, and he has won the Times Masters as well. He remains the only person to ever do both. 3 times he won a spot into the US Open as an amateur, and he was able to cash all 3 times, with a high finish of 23rd. He has also cashed at the USBC Masters as our Great Bowling States representative. He's won 4 state titles, 1994 Team Actual, 2000 All Events Actual, the 2002 Indiana Masters Tournament, and the one he may be the most proud of, a full 2 decades after his first state title and almost a decade after he wasn't sure if he would ever touch a bowling ball again. He was part of the 2014 Actual State Champions. He accomplished this all while bowling with 4 players that he had previously coached at Calumet College of St. Joseph, including his current assistant coach at the school, as well as me, his son. The one thing he won't want me to tell you, he was the low man on the team that year. He still shot .630, he grinded, he did well. In 2006, Calumet College was looking to expand into collegiate bowling, and they had reached out to a local proprietor, Mike Cozy, who led them to Mike Kubacki. That 06-07 season marked the maiden voyage for the Calumet College bowling program. as an entirely unknown school. 2 years removed from questioning his direction in not just bowling, but also his life, he had realized his passion for the game was completely rejuvenated in a way that he never thought possible. He was hungry to learn more about the game, and this is evidenced by the fact that he has now been a USBC Silver certified coach for 10 years and has been named to the Bowler's Journal Top 100 Coaches 8 times. His 15-plus years in upper management and leadership roles in the corporate world before his surgeries shone bright in administrative roles within the collegiate bowling world. He was the NAIA Bowling Coaches Association president from 2012 to 2017. He ran and oversaw all aspects of the seasonal awards banquet and a 3-day championship event, one that many of you here who coordinate tournaments know is not easy. It included coordination of accommodations for 400 athletes and coaches with a formal banquet like this, professional level live streaming of the event, all while garnering sponsorships from some of the top names within the industry. He drafted the first set of recruiting rules ever used on the men's side of NAIA collegiate bowling. He has been a member of the National Collegiate Bowling Coaches Association for 15 years, as well as a part of the USBC Collegiate Advisory Committee for 10 years. Through all of this, he has still found incredible success within the Calumet College program on the national stage, all while the population of the school holds less than 500 full-time students. In the inaugural season of the program, Mike took a ragtag group of mostly Northwest Indiana and Chicagoland bowlers and led them to the intercollegiate team championships, which is the top 16 schools in the entire nation. They converged to compete for the coveted Helmer Cup. 15 years later, and CCSJ has never been absent from the end-of-season national championship tournament. That's 14 straight appearances at nationals, minus 2020 because of COVID, and it's the longest active streak on the men's side. They finished this past season ranked number 1 in the nation, and it's the 3rd time in the last 6 seasons that they've done that. They finished 14 years consecutively current, active, in the top 10 in the nation at the end of season. They finished 3rd twice and runner-up 3 times in national team championship events. And this season, my alma mater got to see an individual, Petey Vargos, win the intercollegiate singles championship. My dad has been named a finalist for the National Collegiate Coach of the Year 5 times. He is the only collegiate coach ever to be named NAIA and NCBCA Coach of the Year in the same season. And he's done that twice. He's done all of this and more, and is continually adding more to his resume today. My father has full faith in bowling as a sport, a profession, and an industry. A few years back, he invested in Eugene McCune and his pro shop to get it reopened, and they named it Legends Pro Shop. And even more recently, he's purchased Linwood Bowl with his partner, Bob Carlson. He's constantly trying to give back to the sport that has given him so much, and all he wants is to see it flourish at every level. I'd like to add a couple anecdotes real quick here at the end. Cindy, you mentioned earlier the bowling love bug, and it reminds me of a time where I had to be 8 or 9, and my dad was driving me back from bowling league, and I'm just peppering him with questions about how I could be better and what I did wrong, and he said, you know, I really hope neither of my kids caught the bowling bug. And I remember him bringing that up, and it was something that always kind of stuck with me. And it's something that he is very impassioned about. He very much cares about this sport, and it's not just from his accolades on the approach. He cares so much more about the kids that he impacts off the lanes. So with that, I'd like to formally introduce you to our dad, Mike Kubacki.
Congratulations, sir. Very good. All right, for the last time tonight, but certainly not the least, Mike, I want to congratulate you on behalf of the staff at headquarters at USBC, as well as the Indiana State USBC, and present you with your Hall of Fame ring and Hall of Fame plaque. Again, saying USBC proudly recognizes Michael Kubacki on being inducted into the Indiana State USBC Hall of Fame, this one dated June 20th of 2020. Congratulations to you. So. Want to use this or you want to use that? So, want to use that one?
Well, I'm afraid I might be a little redundant at times. That was a lot of information. First, thank you to my daughter Nicole and my son Michael, and Joe Puchek, a good friend, who's a newspaper editor who helped my kids with that intro. I'd also like to thank Mike Cozy, for submitting my resume. I'd like to thank the Indiana State Board members for putting together tonight's banquet, as my days of running the NAI Championship makes me aware of the time and effort it takes to make a night like this come together. I'd like to congratulate my fellow honorees this evening and celebrate the past honorees, as I am grateful and honored to be joining this prestigious group. I would love to tell you all that this will be short and sweet, but if you've ever bowled next to me, you know how much time I take on the approach. However, my hope, though, is by the time I'm done, you'll see that although I'm getting tonight's honor, there are many here and at home, I hope, feel they can share it with me. I'm the baby of 6 siblings, 3 older brothers and 2 older sisters, my dad Roy, my mom Barbara. 10 years between me and my oldest sibling Mark. My dad died when I was 10, after being on disability for quite some time. Sadly, he never got to see me bowl or coach. And I really didn't know him very much. So you can imagine the challenges my mom faced, but she was the best mom you could ask for. A self-employed organ and piano teacher making about $12,000 a year, trying to raise the 6 of us. Somehow she did it, and we had everything we needed. If you can imagine a kind, resilient mother who just kept doing what was necessary for her family, that was Mom. Piano teacher, church organist, cafeteria mom, crossing guard, never complained, just did what she had to do. She gave 60 years as the church organist and has been celebrated by them putting up a plaque in her honor. But more importantly, she showed what dedication, loyalty, and commitment looks like in everyday life. The first time I went bowling, I was 10. And my friend Tony Chabin and his mom Shirley took me to bowl at Bowl Arena in Griffith. 8 wood lanes with above ground ball returns. I used the 2 wrong fingers and I bowled a 37. Poor Tony had a rougher game than I did. But that was all it took. I was hooked. I learned at this point in life, if I wanted bowling, I had to figure out a way. So with the work ethic shown to me by my mom, I would work any and all jobs to have some money to bowl. I soon found I didn't have enough money for how much I wanted to be bowling. So as I'm sure Mike Cozy would attest to, I would show up at Bowl Arena and work sometimes all day in exchange for Ron Johnson to teach me and let me bowl for free. You name it, I did it, including cleaning out Ron's car at times. And go ask Cozy what that car looked like. In just a couple of years, I'd be bugging Cozy, Ron, Kenny Parks, and others to let me in their dollar pot games on Sunday nights. Only I just wanted to bowl and see how I would do. They were like, you want to bowl? Put $1 up. Those dollar pot games were bowled on hand-oiled lanes with rubber and plastic bowling balls. And the talent that came out of those Sundays were some of the best in Northwest Indiana, and it made you compete, and you had to earn every win. My poor mom would get so mad at me for being there so late, and finally she said, stay if you want, but you better get up and go to school. To say I exasperated Mom with my passion for bowling was an understatement, but she always remained my biggest fan. She watched whenever she could And as I got older, I always called her, let her know how I did in anything that I bowled. By the tender age of 15, I was joining adult leagues and had already decided after high school I was following Cozy and going to Vincennes to major in bowling leagues management. At this point, Mom could see I had a vision and was getting better. So she signed waivers for me to bowl adult leagues and even started sponsoring me in adult tournaments. Nothing better than sharing winnings with Mom. And that's why this youngest child was Mom's favorite, no matter what my siblings say. In those teen years of traveling, competing with men, I learned from being around them, talking to them, and listening to them. But mostly I learned how to be resilient because they didn't make anything easy. My hope is all of these men and those that are here today, Mike Cozy, Mark Kofoid, my first ball driller, and Joe Ello, that will soon be up here, I'm sure, share this award with me because they are significant parts of the reason the performance part of my career became what it became. I'm an inwardly a spiritual man. Growing up as an altar boy and having a mom who was the organist at church, I've served in many church services. I started out as an all-star shortstop in baseball at the age of 12, but never understood as a child. When I home the first, I was the fastest kid on the team, but when we ran the outfield grass, I was the last to get done. I would learn later in life I never had the lung capacity. I only tell you this because I believe at this age, God was showing me how bowling fit me and what my body was capable of. So at 15, I said bye to baseball and was all in on bowling. Again, my poor mom. This decision burst her vision of me playing for the Cubs someday. I remember she would periodically ask me, "Can't you do both?" And I'd say, "No, Mom, I got to focus on bowling." Bowling would bring me to my kid's late mom. By the time I was a senior in high school, I would marry her at age 22. But at the age of 24, so I was a divorced father with a house, full custody of my daughter, who was 4 at the time, and my son, who was 2, along with a corporate management job with Walgreens. So in many of those early days, it was either bring the kids to the bowling center or not bowl. So you know what I did. They played in the playpen at the bowling center. Somehow, though, at 2 or 3 years old, my son Michael learned quickly how to time his yell for dad when I was right in my backswing. At 28, I would meet the love of my life, Elizabeth Rodriguez. She is the mother of my stepson, Jacob Edwards, and stepdaughter, Erica Edwards. I'm so happy and appreciative that Liz and Jake and his fiancée, Jordan, are able to be here today to share this day with me. It's no coincidence that Liz influenced my accomplishments in my career. She was there to take care of things at home so I could focus. But she would make an even bigger impact when she could actually be there watching me bowl. I've probably bowled the state tournament about 30 times. And Liz was probably able to make it to about 3 or 4 of those. And I won 2 of my 4 titles in those 3 years. I'd call that making an impact. So I hope my family knows how much they've helped me in my most challenging moments and motivated me in others, and should know the reward of this moment for me is getting to share it with them. At 36, in this point in my life, I'm feeling more challenges in my body, and the University of Chicago thinks they can help. I just think God had other plans. Interestingly, in those days, the medical TV shows waited for unusual cases to walk into the hospitals like University of Chicago. They would get the doctor to agree to be on TV and then ask you to volunteer. I will spare you the extensive details and just tell you I learned a lot about doing medical TV. I also learned sometimes they have to do what they think is the best of a difficult situation. The team of doctors went in with one plan, but they went to a plan B that Liz and I had never heard about. When I woke, they said, "Well, we had to move your heart, take your sternum out, rebuild it, and by the way, we only reattached your top 3 ribs, and we released your lung so it could expand." After experiencing that and trying to relearn how to breathe, and during multiple complications with additional surgeries, one without anesthetic, and a couple near-death experiences, I became laser focused on being healthy enough for Liz, the kids, and yes, trying to bowl again. And I left the corporate world. This was tough for me, but maybe even tougher on my family. This all happened just 5 months after moving both families with 4 teenagers in together in a new home. To say Liz had her hands full with her full-time job at Purdue Cal and the kids and me is an understatement. Many days my health didn't seem better, and the insurance stopped covering rehab because they said I had plateaued. But every time I got knocked down, being there for my family and really getting back to engaging life and the goal of bowling again would keep me motivated. So I kept up with my own workouts and figured out how to help myself little by little each day. It took 1.5 years before I could roll a bowling ball again, but I was proud to accomplish it. And even prouder that 11 years later in 2014, after all this, I could win that state title that Mikey mentioned with Sammy and former college players Derek Bowen and Toby Kraus. And yes, Liz was there, and my daughter Nicole. So after all the operations in the rehab, I had no idea coaching would find me. But when the late Claude Jackson asked for my help, I agreed. And when I saw a chance to coach my son and nephew at Griffith High School, I started a program there, but with a caveat. Back in those days of 2005, many schools wouldn't let the bowling teams have a trophy case in the school because it wasn't IHSA certified as a sport in Indiana. So I went to the Griffith AD and said I'd like my bowlers to be treated like athletes. I want them disciplined like athletes, celebrated like athletes, and when they win, I want their trophies in the school. Rick Flucka was a great AD and agreed. With us today, and I'd like them to stand, is 3 of those 2007 Indiana State High School Championship team members that also bowled a perfect Baker 300 during the state finals. If Justin Hauser, Andrew Thomas, and my son could stand, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen. What a gift that title was, and an amazing shared moment for those friends, families, because of bowling. So because of what these young men accomplished when Calumet College went to Mike Cozy looking for a college bowling coach, he referred them to me. And in attendance today from my college is my assistant athletic director, Jake Parker, and his wife, Nicole. Also in attendance today is my very first athletic director, Peter Herring, who came all the way from Nebraska to be here. Kind of a funny story here. Peter was a brand new athletic director interviewing me with the outgoing athletic director for the men's bowling coaching position. I think it's safe to say Peter may have thought I was crazy that day. I would argue I'm passionate. Because once they interviewed me, which took about 20 minutes, I then talked about what it would take to be one of the best programs in the country and compete for a national title. I think that part of the conversation took about 2 hours. I think Peter and Mr. Jusek at the time were slumped back in their seats going, "Are you serious?" And you see, CCSJ is a very small school of about 550 full-time undergrads. And at that time, CCSJ was a young athletic department and only their 5th year with no dorms. And so at the time that Peter was interviewing me, those teams weren't winning much, if at all. But Peter got behind bowling and supported us the way bowling athletes should always be supported. And we rewarded him in the school, putting the school in the Sweet 16 every season and on ESPN in our 4th season and finishing runner-up. And as my son said, just last month, Calumet College senior Peter Virgos won the Intercollegiate Singles Championship. So I guess Peter paved the way for Petey to win this year. Along with the support of Peter, Rick Torres and now Mike Gabry have been supportive athletic directors, and Presidents Rittmeyer, Lowry, and now McCormick continue to celebrate our bowling program. I've had assistant coach Sammy Kruchek with me as a player, graduate, and coach for 14 of the 15 seasons. Sammy's a great compliment to me as a great contributor to our success. Randy Vania helped many years with the Griffith program and college program, and Sammy's wife, Alice Kruchek, was also a player, graduate, and coached our college program on the girls' side. Jake Hayes, who's also here tonight and graduated from Calumet, has been assisting both programs for 5 years and is here with his girlfriend, Nicole. And Kevin Mikulowski has been a volunteer assistant when able the past 4 seasons. I'm going into my 16th season as a college coach, and the success we have found is consistently a byproduct of the players and families having a willingness to let us coaches teach discipline and learn from them. No 2 years or teams are the same because they are young men who are constantly evolving. I often look back on my medical moments and realize it was some of the most challenging times for me, but also for my family. But then I see the outpouring of blessing that has come beyond those moments, because had I not gone through that, I would have never met all of these great young men and their families from all across the country. I truly hope each and every player and their families know that they too should share and enjoy this award. Having a successful student-athlete experience, which leads to a successful team outcome, takes teamwork from student, families, faculty, administration, and coaches. From July 5th to the 17th in Indianapolis, this year will be Junior Gold, where over 4,000 youth bowlers will be here in Indy, competing for thousands of scholarship dollars. I know 4,000 sounds like a lot, but everything young players can get from youth bowling is still a well-kept secret. The experience will change them, and it's one of the safest sports out there. Talk to the parents you know who have young children and educate them on our youth tours and how these kids can be going into college with thousands in scholarship money to help offset costs. Encourage them to bowl, and to the accomplished players in this room, give them a few lessons with the basics. I was a young child who, because of bowling, went to college. I doubt I would have gone otherwise. That 2-year degree has helped me in my corporate life as a former district manager at Speedway, and now entrepreneurial life as I own the pro shop with Eugene McCune, and will soon be closing the purchase of Linwood Bowl with Bob Carlson. Thank you to Bob and his wife Gail for being here today. I will close with this. Years ago, I walked into Robert Walsh's office and saw the saying, "The value of one's life is measured by the impact it has on others." Bowling and relationships from our sport have impacted me greatly, and I can never thank all of them enough. This in turn shows the value and impact bowling can have when introduced to others, especially our youth. If you have enjoyed, like me, so many of the rewards bowling can offer, then you, like me, have a social responsibility to support bowling as you can. Coming out of the pandemic, this country is still recovering from, has left our proprietors needing us as customers more than ever, and bowling needs us, especially those in this Hall of Fame, encouraging, educating, and inspiring our friends to come back to the game, but even more importantly, helping, teaching, and inspiring our youth to bowl. Thank you.
Now we are going to do our last and final thing this evening. We are going to recognize all Hall of Famers that are here this evening. When I call your name, please wait until a board member brings you to be seated. We are going to start with our tonight's inductees. 2021 inductee David Munn. '21 inductee Jerry Hindel. '20 inductee Cindy Adams. '20 inductee Corky Cook. '20 inductee Mike Kubacki. Mike, stand up. 2020 inductee Steve Lang. '20 inductee Rick Schultz. and Mark is unable to be with us this evening. 2019 inductee, Tom Taylor. '19 inductee, Jada Maccabee. '19 inductee, Marcia Miller. '19 inductee, Mike Cozy. '19 inductee, Donna Denning. '18 inductee, Larry Owens. '18 inductee, Alice A.J. Hacker. '18 inductee, Carrie Kane. '17 inductee, Christy Woodruff. '17 inductee, Brian Nunning. '16 inductee, Kimberly Adams Woodall. '12 inductee, 2016 inductee, Paul Sutton. '16 inductee, Susie Lay. '15 inductee, Jerry Harvey. '15 inductee, Linda Burns. '14 inductee, Aaron McCormick. '14 inductee, Catherine Plummer Cox. '13 inductee, John Burley Jr. '12 inductee, Steve Hartman. '11 inductee, Jeff Circle. 2010 inductee, Gary Ness. 2010 inductee, John Kelly. '2010 inductee, Jenny Ferguson. '2008 inductee, Sherry Munn. '2008 inductee, Jan Davis. 2007 inductee Larry Taylor. 2007 inductee Dee Johnson. 2004 inductee David Hurt. Also in 2004, AJ Hacker. 1999, Cheryl Jacobs Morrison. 1998, Patty Edson. 1993, Tommy Lee Baxter. Okay. 2007, Kim Buell. 'Have I missed anyone? Oh my, I have them all. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay seated. The photographer would like to get a photo of the group. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your Indiana State USBC Hall of Fame. For final closing remarks, here is your Indiana State USBC President, Kerry Kane.
Wow, what a night so far. Before I close, I'd like to have all of my Hall of Fame committee members please stand. Hall of Fame committee members, please stand. I see 1, 2, 3. I see 3. Okay. These people need a great round of applause. They did one heck of a job tonight. Linda, I want to thank you for a great evening. You guys did great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tonight, I think you've seen 8 great individuals. You saw a passion, a desire they had in their life. They expressed that desire in their speeches to you with a passion. I want to say welcome classes of 2020 and 2021. You're Hall of Famers. You've earned it. Savor the night. It's a night that will last forever for you. It means a lot to me, but each and every one of you in this Hall of Fame have something to offer everybody in this room, our sport. Let's see if we can't make it grow, coming out of COVA, make it a better year for everybody. I thank you all for coming tonight. Tomorrow we'll have our annual meeting, and hopefully we'll have some more progress and a better future. Thank you, and good night. Have safe travels.